have you guys been watching the Monday Night War?
Yeah, I've seen all the episodes.
All right. Is it just...
I'm unfortunately, I've only watched the first 2 so far.
All right. Is it just me, or was the first 1 or 2 episodes really about the Monday Night War? And thus far, every subsequent episode has just been like an hour-long documentary about something that happened in WWE, like, during that era.
Yeah, without having watched the other 3, I missed 3 so far, right? It's been 5 total. I feel like that's the case. It's like they feature like a piece of the Monday Night War, like somebody's career and like somebody's role in it, but not the actual like chronological Monday Night War.
Right.
The first 2 are pretty chronological, just kind of showing things as they go on. But here's where I understand what's going on. If you have such big things like because you're saying it's like it was the D-Generation X and Foley. They were like pretty much documentaries.
Well, let's take it back a notch. The first episode is just about like the first Nitro and what was going on, and comparing the 2 products all throughout. The next one was about the NWO specifically, if memory serves, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Then they cut over to WWF and they do a piece just about the Attitude Era. Okay, so we're focusing completely on WWF now. Then the next episode is documentary all about D-Generation X. Okay, again, WWF thing. The next episode is about Mick Foley. Okay, whole thing's WWF. Like, they just sprinkle in 1 or 2 little things about WCW in there to kind of make it relevant, but it was basically a quick retelling of Mick Foley's career. And then this coming week is going to be Bret Hart, and it's probably just mostly going to be, I'm sure it'll include some of WCW, but it's going to go up to this. It's going to be the Screwjob story.
Well, it should show that when he, and then he shows up in WCW, the whole thing at Starrcade '97, that whole debacle.
Yeah, that was awful. But the point is, though, they should be seesawing back and forth between them and not just saying, like, okay, so there was Nitro and there was NWO, and then here's all the things that we did. And it's like, I know what you guys did.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that.
Here's like where they dropped the ball with the last episode. When you're showing, here's how they can ping pong, like you said. Like they showed Mick Foley's career and the whole big deal about him losing. I'm sorry, the night that they said Mick Foley's going to win the title. Boy, that'll put a lot of butts in the seats. And it was, what was it, like 600,000, 700,000 people switched over to Raw.
Right.
That was like a big deal in the Monday Night War because after that, I think after that, WWF never lost in the ratings war.
But the thing is, like that's obviously like that's very relevant to the Monday Night War story. But it just seemed like the whole episode was Mick Foley's entire career just to get to that point.
Right.
And that and the other thing is, while talking about Mick Foley's career, they talked about the "This Is Your Life" segment for The Rock, and they never tell you the number that segment got. They just
I'm surprised because that drew like the highest number they've ever gotten.
They say
that got like a 7 or 8 or something.
I think in Foley's book he said it got like an 8.4 or something.
Right,
yeah.
But they say that it got like the highest number ever for them, but they don't say what the number was, which was weird to me.
I think it's still the highest rated segment in professional wrestling history.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
Right.
But what I was getting to the whole thing was this is how, if they did it like this, it would show they're really showing the actual war. Because that very same night that Foley won the title and everyone switched over was the finger poke of doom.
That was that same night, yeah. Yeah, like that.
So why didn't they compare, like, that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
Because they should talk about that. Because meanwhile, while the WWF is putting over a new guy, like a people's champion, somebody who's never had it before, who deserves to be in that top spot, a guy like Mick Foley, he's getting the title. Meanwhile, on WCW, they have the newest, hottest guy, Goldberg, which I should have brought him up already. He loses the title to Kevin Nash after his big streak, after he beat Hogan for it, just so Nash can do the finger poke of doom and give it right back to Hogan on the same night. That's a big deal.
No, it wasn't the same night.
Yeah, it was the same. Finger poke of doom was the same night.
Not as when Goldberg lost the title.
No, as Foley.
Okay, well, the way you structured that sentence, it sounded like you were implying those two things.
Right, I'm circling back around to the Foley and the same night.
Yeah, and they kind of made a mockery of their own world title, and that's a big deal, and that's a Monday Night War thing. But they're just like Mick Foley. The end.
Because that night,
well, a couple things. If they're gonna do this whole the way they're gonna structure this is focusing on certain things like the NWO and DX and Foley, I'm surprised, as you just mentioned, they didn't do one on Goldberg yet, and they haven't done one on Austin yet.
They will.
I'm sure they will.
I'm sure they will. But secondly, I kind of figured this is going to run as like a mini-series, and that it would chronologically just go throughout. And if that was the case, then I feel like what they should have done was the whole Foley episode and the butts in the seats thing. That should have been right, like, about 80% of the way at least through the miniseries.
Right.
85%.
Right. So it's obviously
it's weird that such a major moment to almost essentially end the war, because they never lost again, is so soon in this series.
Right. And not only that, they're reusing footage now, and all like it's almost like they don't realize people are watching all of these. Like they reuse like
Bischoff saying the same thing.
Yeah, they reuse chunks of like whenever they show like WWF's roster was completely out of touch and behind the times, and they show like Duke the dumpster like walking to the ring. They show that same footage with that same narration. Right, and they show that same footage with the new narration, but over and over again now. I've seen that 2 or 3 times. It's like stop using that.
Right.
It just feels like a major ball drop, because that's such a big juxtaposition about what the two companies are doing and the future.
You said ball drop.
Ball drop. Yeah.
Sorry.
Because it's like, that's like the most clear-cut night of the sign of where both of those companies are going. Hulk Hogan's winning the title again in 1999 to the finger poke of doom, which is like the dumbest thing in pro wrestling history ever, one of the dumbest things, and on the very same night on the other channel, Mick Foley's winning the title, and they say the thing about butts in seats, and it changes the tide.
Right.
So you need to show the two of those, like, I was assuming, how sometimes they show like the two shows side by side kind of gimmick?
Yeah.
I figured they were going to be like, while we were doing this, they were doing that, and like that shows you like that's so huge. Why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they show them side by side? It's unbelievable.
So, right. I feel like the way they should have promoted this was do it in chronological order, go back and forth, and then like most of the way through this series, like, and next week on the network, the night in wrestling history that changed the landscape of blah 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 blah, and like that's how they should have promoted it.
It should have been about the night, not about.
But if they're going to have these centric episodes too, they can't space it out, so it kind of goes through like a release of WWF, WCW, maybe more WWF episodes, but like, they can't have like kind of like a jumping one, every other episode is about the different companies.
Well, we talked about this DVD on the show like a while ago, but I feel like whoever produced this series also produced the Attitude Era DVD.
I haven't seen the Attitude Era.
What's that?
I haven't seen the Attitude Era DVD. So
it's not worth your time.
Yeah.
You didn't? I feel like we talked about that on the show, no?
I haven't.
Because basically the Attitude Era DVD was like, it started going chronologically, and then like halfway through the DVD, it just started like, each segment of the DVD was about a certain thing, and it had really no rhyme or reason as to why, like, the DVD was structured the way it was.
I remember talking about that, about the WWF DVD, or WWE DVD that came out a few months back, or maybe a year ago by now, when they just chronicled the history of the company.
The 50-year anniversry,
and
one?
They did this, and they did the same thing there, where they just kind of they kind of were going chronological, and they just started jumping all over the place.
Yeah, so, wow, so it looks like we got a trend on our hands now.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the way they're doing things. I don't like that.
The other thing Kevin Dunn's just TV.
I don't know. It might be one of those things where like whoever's producing these like things wraps them up pretty early and is like, oh crap, and then they just kind of start throwing stuff in. I don't know. Just not good. Yeah, they're not obviously not going chronologically because Goldberg came before Mick Foley won the title.
Right.
But I want to see more. Like the thing is, WCW ended. It was a thing, and then it was gone. WWE we've had for years consistently. Like, it's nice to sometimes go back and look at WCW stuff and to see the wrestlers' take on it, and that's interesting to me. And to kind of just, like, we've been deprived of that for the most part for this whole series.